Senate Standing Committee on Education will come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll, Senator Givens, Senator Higdon, Senator Meredith, Senator Neal, Senator Rawlings, Senator Reed, Senator Thomas, Senator Williams, Senator Wilson, Senator Wise, Vice Chair Tishner, Chair West.
Here. We have a quorum. We are duly constituted to conduct business. As is usual in Education Committee, I go through the rules every meeting. Please silence your cell phones. There are no signs allowed in the committee room. If you wish to speak for or against a measure, you are required to sign up on the list at the back of the room. Do any members have any introductions of special guests at this time? I have a group of special guests. I just noticed them in the room. I have a leadership group from Harrison County, and if we had a robust discussion in my office earlier, if you guys could stand and be recognized by the committee. Really appreciate your all's endeavors in being here today. Senator Higdon has some guests, I believe.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do, and some outstanding young ladies from Mercy Academy here today participating in the process, and we certainly appreciate that. From my district, Emily Bennyfield and Brittany Morgan. Are they still in the room? If not, anyway, I'd still like for all the Mercy Academy students to stand up and let us recognize you, and thank you for being here, participating in the process.
If we could hold up here a second. Hold up just a second. I think they're coming in. Come on in. Come on in.
Mercy, mercy.
Let's recognize these special guests. Any other introductions or announcements? At this time, we'll get right into the business today. Today should be an easy day in Education Committee. We have one bill on the docket today. But before we get into that, we do have a group of special guests. February is Career and Technical Education Month, and this past Tuesday was Career and Technical Education Student Organization Leadership Day in Frankfort. That's a long sentence. Today we have student leader in Career Technical Education who is with us to discuss the importance of these programs. So could Caden Dunn and anybody associated with this program step to the table at this time and be prepared to present? So what you'll need to do is that microphone has a green button. Make sure your green button is on in order for the microphone to be on. When you're ready to go, I need each person to state your name for the record, and then the floor is yours. You can take off.
Danae Owens, Kentucky FCCLA.
Caden Dunn, Kentucky FCCLA.
The floor is yours.
We're here today to speak with you all about the importance of career and technical education. We thank you all for your support of all CTE and CTSOs, including Family and Consumer Sciences and FCCLA. I'm going to take a moment of your time to tell you my personal story being involved with this organization. When I started as a freshman in 2022, I was scared, nervous, and even felt weird wearing this very red blazer. Now I stand before you today, confident, love to speak in front of anybody and everybody, and would do anything for more time in this red blazer. FCCLA fosters a community that will break my heart to absolutely say goodbye to. This organization has meant the world to me. I have decided to say yes to FCS, so I will finish my career off as a Family and Consumer Science teacher and FCCLA advisor. This organization has brought me so many incredible people, allowed me so many opportunities, and because of the incredible people within it, I've been able to serve over the 11,000 members across Kentucky FCCLA. I have planned and led a leadership camp, led over 300 members on our National Leadership Conference, started our first statewide community network, and given back to FCCLA as a whole. My testimony is just one of the few that you will be able to hear. With over 260,000 members across the nation, FCCLA is continuing to grow and thrive within each and every member that wears this very red jacket. It is an absolute heartbreak to say goodbye in just one short month at our state leadership conference, but I know that I've done my job well. I've given back to our members and did everything that I possibly could. When I dreamed to become a state officer, I set the goal in mind of giving back to our community and paving a way for the next generation of leaders and members. I can confidently say that I've done that. I've been able to step into this role and do nothing but incredible things because of the opportunity within FCCLA. We thank you all for your support of members just like myself, the 11,000 across Kentucky, and the 260,000 across the United States of America.
Good morning. As previously said, my name is Caden Dunn, and I proudly serve as the state president of the Kentucky Association of Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. Today, I represent over 11,000 FCCLA members across our Commonwealth, students enrolled in family and consumer sciences and career and technical education programs in communities, all rural, suburban, and urban. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, not just as a student leader, but as a direct product of Kentucky career and technical education. I am here to urge you for one goal, to urge you to continue and boldly expand your support for career and technical education and organizations like FCCLA that transforms classrooms into career launching platforms. Because the truth is simple. CTE is not an alternative path. It is a powerful path. Across Kentucky, we have 354 public high schools, over 200,000 high school students, 145,000 students enrolled in CTE courses, and more than 67,000 concentrators, students deeply invested in high-demand career pathways. Nationally, FCCLA serves nearly 260,000 members. 88% of our members maintain GPAs between a 3.0 and a 4.0. 39% are enrolled in career and college readiness courses, 39% are CTE concentrators, 38% are in honors programs. These are not disengaged students, these are driven students. And FCCLA is the leadership engine behind them all. In 2025, the House passed House Bill 342 to strengthen financial literacy education. And that's very important. Kentucky students should understand credit scores, investments, and taxes. But what good is financial literacy without life literacy? What good is knowing how to manage a stock portfolio if you've never been taught how to manage conflict, lead a team, raise a child, nourish a family, or serve a community? We don't just teach future educators, healthcare professionals, early childhood specialists, culinary artists, entrepreneurs, and public servants. We just teach people how to live. Kentucky has already demonstrated bold leadership through the recent initiative FFA for All, allocating $200,000 this year and $250,000 next year to eliminate dues barriers so that every student who wants to join FFA can. That is visionary. That is equitable. That is access. But I stand before you today to ask, what about FCCLA for All? What about CTSOs for All? If we believe every student deserves opportunity, then opportunity cannot depend on a dues payment. If we believe workforce development matters, then we must invest in the organizations that are producing the workforce. FCCLA is currently the only career and technical student organization with families as its central focus. In a time when our nation faces teacher shortages, healthcare shortages, childcare shortages, and workforce instability, we are actively preparing students to step into those gaps, and we are doing it in every zip code. Here's how we need to sustain and expand this impact. We need to increase state funding for high-demand CTE pathways aligned with workforce standard tools. Expand funding for internships, apprenticeships, and employer partnerships. Additional support for rural districts with limited opportunity, and incentives to recruit and retain CTE teachers. Because outdated equipment produces outdated preparation, and limited access produces limited opportunity. But beyond the statistics and the rhetoric, let me tell you what FCCLA has meant to me. FCCLA gave me my first gavel, my first committee, my first time standing in front of a room shaking, but speaking anyway. It taught me how to write legislation proposals, how to analyze policy, how to organize community impact proposals and projects, and how to lead peers who think differently than I do. It taught me responsibility. It taught me resilience. It taught me service before self. I am not an exception. I am an example of what happens when CTE is funded, supported, and believed in. And there are thousands of students across Kentucky just like me, waiting for the same investment. Members of the committee, you often talk about workforce pipelines. We are that pipeline. You talk about career and college readiness. We are ready. You talk about strengthening families and communities, and that is quite literally in our name. Family, career, community, leaders. So today I respectfully ask, continue your support for CTE funding, expand investment in high-demand pathways, support equitable access across Kentucky, and consider what FCCLA for All could mean for students who simply need the door opened. Because when you fund CTE, you are not funding electives. You are funding Kentucky's future educators, Kentucky's nurses, Kentucky's small business owners, Kentucky's legislators, and Kentucky's leaders. And I'm standing in front of you today as proof of that investment. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your commitment to CTE.
Thank you so much. Excellent job. We've got a couple minutes for some questions. Senator Neal has a question.
Actually, Mr. President,
Maybe one day, Senator Neal.
aspirational, huh? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I really don't have a question. I really have a statement. I just have to tell you, that was truly impressive. You both are to be commended for this presentation. This is one of the best presentations that we've received, that I've observed before this body. So I think that should be said. Secondly, thank you for giving us a little taste of what we are doing with our policy. Supporting this effort is extraordinary, and I think you presented it so well that I listened very carefully at the end. I want you to know that you have my commitment to that, and I dare say the commitment of the people on this panel and beyond. But again, thank you very much, because you give us hope for the future. We know what we're investing in now. That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for this group? Senator Tishner.
Thank you guys so much. I see you're from Bowling Green High School. Yes?
I am.
You are. Where are you from?
I'm from Shelby County High School in Shelbyville,
County.
Kentucky.
Okay, so we've got two
Yes.
senators up here that might have their jobs at risk in the future. You guys are clearly prepared to be leaders of our communities. Great work. How many membership? I think you mentioned the number you all have in membership.
We currently have 11,335 members in the Kentucky Association of FCCLA.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you all. Great work.
Senator Williams.
I was actually pointing to Senator Tishner, but I would like to say I think the career and technical education in the state, you are great examples of it, and we need to do a lot more sending people out to career and technical. And they don't need to go on to a 4-year university to have a good job that a single family can earn and have a career in. And it's a great welcome to see you all, and you've started your careers very well.
Thank you.
Senator Reed. You good? Good deal. Thank you guys so much for your presentation. Excellent presentation. We appreciate you all coming in every year. Good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Up next on the agenda, we have our aforementioned bill, SB 152, an act relating to education. I'll give Senator Reed a chance to get at the table. Senator Reed, make sure your green light's on. State your name for the record and proceed.
Yes, sir. Senator Aaron Reed from District 7.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, we've got first of all, I'd like to apologize for killing a tree with this bill and the and all the subs and the amendments that we
Senator,
have today.
could you pull that microphone just
Sure
a little
thing.
bit closer?
How's that?
There you go. That's better. Thank you.
All right. Would you like to explain the process that happened, or you want me to go through?
Sure. Yeah, we have a committee sub that is in everyone's folders, so it's been distributed. Do you want us to adopt the sub at this point?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the sub? We have a motion. We have a second. Voice vote. All those in favor of adopting the sub say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Sub is adopted.
Okay.
I'm going to keep on moving if you don't mind, Senator. We'll work on the amendment, the committee amendment.
Okay.
If everybody, there is a committee amendment to the sub, and I believe the amendment's been distributed. It says on page 8, line 10, delete 6. Okay? So I'm going to direct everyone's attention to the specifics of the amendment. So if you will look on page 8 of the sub, line 4, 5, and 6. I'll give people a chance to get there. In the sub, what the language was doing, I'll try to make this concise, is it was kind of giving veto power to the superintendent of hiring decisions made by the principal. That's what the sub was doing with that language. The committee amendment strikes that language and basically puts it back to where it was before. So in other words, to make a long story short, there's no change at all from the current system. It just, the sub did that. Senator Reed chose to not do that, and so he pulled that part back. So just maintains the status quo there, just so everybody knows what's in the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you explained it better than I could have on that.
We're going to go ahead and act on it. Is there a motion to adopt the amendment to the sub? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Once again, voice vote. All those in favor of adopting the sub say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Sub is adopted and amendment to the sub is adopted. It's all teed up and ready for you, ready to go.
Let's play. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 152 modernizes Kentucky's approach to school governance by replacing school-based decision-making councils, or SBDMs, with school-based advisory councils known as SBACs. When SBDMs were created decades ago, the goal was to decentralize authority and strengthen student achievement by increasing local involvement. Over time, schools across the Commonwealth have worked within the framework with varying results. While the intent was sound, experience has shown that simply adjusting governance structure alone does not consistently drive improved outcomes or provide the level of clarity and accountability that many districts are seeking today. Senate Bill 152 does not eliminate parent or teacher input. What it does is it clarifies responsibility. Under this bill, the advisory councils will continue to provide feedback and recommendations. However, final authority over hiring, curriculum decisions, and school leadership will rest with the principal and the superintendent, the individuals who are ultimately accountable for student performance. Right now, responsibility is often fragmented. When authority is diffused, accountability is weakened. So Senate Bill 152 restores a clear chain of command so that when a school succeeds, we know who led it. And when a school struggles, we know who is responsible for fixing it. This bill puts responsibility for student achievement squarely back with the school and district leadership, where it belongs. It strengthens leadership, provides alignment between schools and districts, and ensures that decisions are made by those trained and hired to lead. Let me be clear, this is not an attack on teachers or parents. It's a structural reform designed to improve clarity, efficiency, and accountability in our schools. Our students deserve systems that are focused on outcomes and not process. I respectfully ask for your support on Senate Bill 152. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Reed. The way we're going to run this now at this point, we have 3 people signed up to speak against. We'll get to those people in just a second. Right now, however, we're going to open the floor up for questions briefly before we move into those opposed. I believe Senator Thomas has a question.
Senator Reed, as you know, throughout this session in the Senate chamber, we've talked a lot about governance structure and how schools operate. That's been a central theme. My question to you is, do you have any evidence that you can present to us today to demonstrate that site-based decision-making councils don't work? Now, I listened to your presentation, but I'm not aware of any evidence that shows that SBDMs don't work in schools. I mean, we have all kind of schools that exist in Kentucky. Some do extremely well, some not so well. But I've never heard any indication in my discussions that the reason why the schools don't do well is because of the existence of site-based decision-making councils. On the other hand, I am aware that those high-performing schools have a lot of parental involvement. You have a lot of parental care and oversight and participation in the school. So I just ask you, on what basis do you represent to us today that site-based decision-making councils don't work?
Thank you for the question, Senator Thomas. And I don't have any list of folks right in front of me here, but I have received many calls, and my colleagues here on the committee have also received many calls in interaction with parents and teachers throughout the districts in the state. As moving forward, I can provide a lot more information for you in the future, if that'll help.
Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Reed, for this bill. You know, this is whether this is needed or not needed, it is time to take a look under the hood to see and take a deep dive on site-based decision-making councils. And over the years, a lot of things have been changed to the original CARE, which was adopted in 1990. I think Senator Neal was the only one sitting here today that voted on that bill. I came a long time after that, but I got here as quick as I could. But we've seen a lot of changes in the original CARE. We've seen, the assessments have changed numerous times. OEA has been kind of changed quite a bit. The principal selection that's been changed. One of the most interesting committees I ever served on was a committee that met probably in the late 2008 to eliminate portfolios. And at the time there was a lot of pushback on doing that, and it ended up being, I think a fairly good process. So I believe in the process. I think the process works, and I think a piece of legislation that was passed in 1990. A lot has changed in education since then, and a lot of change has been made to CARE since then. So thank you for bringing this bill, and like I said, the process does work, and we'll have time to take a deep dive on site-based decision-making councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
I'll wrap us up in this segment. I've got a question. Just for clarification, in reading the bill the way I read it, if this were to pass, you don't cut off parental involvement in the schools, correct? I mean, parents are still able to be on the advisory council, still able to be involved in day-to-day operations and express their opinion, express their views, and be that. Then none of that changes. All we're basically changes is who has that final decision-making authority when it comes to certain things like bylaws and rules and that sort of thing. You're kind of transferring some of that at the end to the principal. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator West, that is correct. And the whole point of here is to increase the leadership. And we've all heard on this committee as well on the importance of leadership. And I think last week we just talked about principals going to leadership training. This is an improvement on leadership and to define a clear chain of command. You know, when everyone is in charge, no one is responsible, and you know that's the spirit of this bill, sir.
Thank you so much. We have no further questions at this time. If you don't mind, Senator, if you would step to the side for just a minute. I'm gonna bring everybody up at the same time that's on the sheet to speak against. We got 3 people. If y'all would step forward at this time, we have Elizabeth Irwin, we have Ed Hendrick, and we have Autumn Neagle. And what we're going to do, we got about 10 minutes for all 3 of you guys. I'm going to, if we could start at the left and go across, if you could state your name for the record, state the name of the organization you're with, and then when we're all done, whoever wants to start out first can proceed, take the floor, and go ahead. Thank you. Make sure that green light's on.
Ed Hendrick, representing KEA.
Liz Irwin, representing Kentucky Association of School Councils.
Autumn Nagel, representing Kentucky State PTA, Parent Teacher Association.
The floor is yours.
Good morning. I have over 25 years working with councils, both as the executive director now of the Kentucky Association of School Councils. I also served as a parent rep, most recently on my child's council for their school, and as a teacher rep back in 1998, and then as a principal for 5 years. Schools and districts face many challenges in improving outcomes for our students. Deconstructing school-based decision-making is not the solution. It will not benefit our schools to revert to a system where school decisions are politicized and made from the top down. SBDM has been successful because it is recognized that all schools and students are not the same, and the one-size-fits-all bureaucratic processes do not lead to students reaching higher levels. Where school-based decision-making works well is when you have strong leadership and the parents and teachers feel empowered to have an authentic part in actual decisions. By changing the council role to merely advisory, you would be diminishing the voices of those closest to the students, the parents and the teachers. To empower parents and teachers and principals to make wise decisions that are best for their students and their unique communities, we don't dismantle the entire system. Senate Bill 152 sends the message that the voices of teachers, and especially parents, the very people that can offer the most valuable insights on the students, are not important. One of the parts that I find most alarming about this bill is how it grants new authority to the local school board to approve every school-based policy. The people most qualified to make and approve legally required school policies like instructional practices and use of school space are those who are in the school or have students in the school. We all want to make our schools better for our students. We have strong structures in place in law to do that. We have elections from the constituents of those groups for the council members. We have transparency through open meetings and regularly scheduled meetings. We need to support the 8,350 citizens who are serving on school councils across the state, instead of taking away their authentic role in school-based decision-making. We should ask these SBDM members what we can do to support them. Thank you.
So I'd like to start with a little background with me. I have been teaching for 21 years as an agricultural educator. I have taught at 5 different schools, 4 of which have been in the state of various SES backgrounds, and have served on site-based councils of 2 of those schools and 1 for 2 terms. I am a second-generation educator. My father was an ag teacher for 35 years and National Ag Teacher of the Year twice. My mom is still teaching as a substitute teacher in Hardin County for the last 30 years, as well as my wife is an educator, and both my in-laws are in the education system. The reason I chose to be on site-based council is through my father, Larry Hendrick, who emphasized me to advocate. If I have an issue with our school, the site-based council is the best way to express my views on the subject. He has communicated with me, and I have had it in my programs where I have sat there and they have tried to cut CTE programs. It is CTE month, so, kind of hits right at the right time. Where they tried to eliminate programs. And the only reason those programs stayed was because the site-based council had the power and control to actually keep that from happening. I have seen programs close down because of this, but I've also seen programs open up. In agriculture education, we have seen a gross increase in our middle school programs in agriculture education, increase in FCCLA programs or FCS programs in the middle school section through those site-based council decisions. Local control is important because those communities, you are in that community, you know what those students need, you know what that area needs. I am currently teaching in Warren County, a large school district. It would be really hard pressed to have unilateral control to control those different communities. Smaller communities, I understand there might be, okay, that makes more sense, but smaller communities, you're together. That's not necessarily the same because those smaller communities will have schools everywhere and will have different needs of those students. I encourage you all to consider this bill. And if you make any changes, we do need to keep control to those local departments. I do not want to waste your time and give our other person to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have never sat on the SBDM. I have talked to them several times. My son has spoken to them to make changes in our local school. So I want to give you a little bit of perspective from the SBDM that's at my school. My daughter and son have both attended J. Graham Brown School in Louisville, Kentucky. We currently have 4 parents sitting on that board that rotate so there's an election every year for 2 people. And since we've gone to electric voting, the PTA still does put the votes out or put the election out. It is done electronically. It is sent to only those guardians that are students that are currently at the school. It is double checked and made sure that those votes are the ones that are actually counted. I'll give you the stats for the last 2 years. In 2024, we had 5 candidates. None of those candidates sat on the PTSA board. In fact, only one had ever been on the board at the school for PTA. They all wrote a bio, they put it out there, so when they go to the election, they actually have the bio there. They can read from all the candidates and see what they do. The votes, we had 161 people voted, and 2 people that were picked had never been involved in the school before. They are now active in that school, in our school. The following year, which was just this past spring, we again had 5 people that volunteered to be on the SBDM board. Of those, only 1 had been on the PTS board several years before. None were currently on the board. Of those, 145 people voted, and we had 2 new people that had never been involved in the school on the SBDM or the PTSA. This is to show you that the PTSA does hold these elections, or the largest school parent-based group in the school, but we make sure that everyone has a right to come onto that board and has the active ability to do that. I can show you that who was brought in was not from a clique from our school PTSA. It was from active parents that wanted to be involved. It is commonly stated that parent voice and involvement is needed in our schools. Everybody says the more involved parents you get, the better schools you are. But this bill tells parents that they are not welcome in this space. Yes, they can speak, but they don't have a vote. They're not authentically being able to vote their way. I contact my SBDM members if I have something that I think needs to be brought up in the school. They're not a lone island. They are the voice of the parents in that school. SBDM is a vital place where parents voice and vote and make a difference in their school directly. I would argue that we don't need more parent involvement, but parent engagement. Involvement means we go along and participate, which is what this bill says. We go along and someone else approves it. Engagement means becoming a partner in that school, becoming a partner that participates and engages every day with that school. We need more engagement. SBDM allows parents to have that engagement and that opportunity to partner in the education. I ask you not to take their voice away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've got about 5 minutes right here for questions of this group. We'll start out with Senator Thomas.
Ms. Nagel.
Sorry.
Is it Ms. Nagel?
Yes, Ms. Nagel.
Ms. Nagel, I have to tell you, I couldn't agree with you more. You're talking. You're hearing from someone who's a former PTSA president. 4 years at Bryan Station back at the beginning of this century. And you'll never convince me, Ms. Nagel, that parental involvement or engagement isn't essential to having a successful child go through school. Now, I've seen it firsthand in terms of getting parents involved in actually having a new school built, going from a very dilapidated school to a new school, which was Bryan Station High School. That was a direct result of parental engagement across the school. So I am a firm believer in parental engagement, and I'm glad to see you still with the PTSA. Those were 4 good years of my life, and I want to see the PTSA continue. Thank you for your statements this morning.
Senator Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I was here when they implemented KIRA 30 years ago. Have test scores gone up or down or remained the same since we implemented KIRA and site-based decision-making?
Is that?
Anyone's free to answer that question.
So our ranking as a state has improved, and we have data for that. I can get you some specifics. It is difficult when you just talk about test scores because the accountability system has changed. So the way we measure progress is a little bit different. But if you look at NAEP and you look at some of those where we rank as a nation and as a state versus other states, we have improved. Thank you.
I'll wrap us up. I got a couple questions here to end this segment. I'll direct my questions to anyone up there. Is free to answer this question. I've got a couple questions. So we talk about local control, who should have a say, that sort of thing. And so isn't there oftentimes a conflict between if the SBDMs implement these school rules for that specific school, and maybe the school board has a different opinion? You know, the school board is a constitutionally elected body, whereas the SBDMs are not a constitutionally elected body. They are an elected body, but not constitutionally. Doesn't that take a little bit of a power away from the school board if SBDMs are able to override the school board?
Well, being a part of an SBDM, when we think of some of these rules, we talk about the power of the principal and that upper leadership, as you mentioned in your testimony, your presentation. If we have a effective administrator in there, he would advise us, what are those pitfalls? I can think specifically, we were talking about at one of my SBDMs, the use of clear mesh backpacks at our school. And we had a very strong administrator in that meeting, and he talked us back on that. So if you have a strong administrator, which in Senate Bill, I believe 4, it mentions the grow your own and making sure that leadership is there. If you have a strong leadership in that SBDM, you're not going to have that type of issue.
And something else too, when we talk about, rules versus, guiding procedures, when we talk about policies, the school board or the district is supposed to be reviewing site-based policies for legality, safety, and those other kinds of issues. So there's that accountability built in. When we talk about these decisions, it's less about rules and more about how decisions are made. So for example, like a school space policy might include how your school would get stakeholder input, those kinds of things. Also, we forget too that those principals have accountability to the district. They are evaluated by the superintendent. So there's that built-in accountability as well. And like you said, like Senate Bill 4 is, I think, is right on. And we have to empower those leaders, those principals to lead the council, and so that we can have stronger councils. Because in places where you've got that strong leadership, they know how to lead their council and working together to make strong decisions.
I would also state that your school board does not actually know what's going on in every school. I just spoke at my board meeting the other night, and I had a board member say, well, I don't really know what every school needs because I'm not sitting in that school with those students, with those teachers, with that principal. I know the overall. So yes, you can give guidance overall, but we are not cookie cutter schools. You can't make a cookie cutter thing and say this works for everyone. Because if we knew that, every school would be the exact same. We know that doesn't work for our students. We're not cookie cutter Pittsburgh. We're not cookie cutter schools. So your SPDM knows what's going on. We're having to change our schedule. Students and parents and teachers and the principal are all working on that schedule so that we can switch classes and get people moving, whether we do 6 or 7 classes a day. That is something your SBDM would decide. That's not something your school board member will go, oh, well, you know what, this school needs 6 days or 6 classes and this needs 7. That is something your SBDM does. And having a school board look over that policy and go, okay, no, I don't agree with that. That's not what we need. That's more bureaucracy. That's more of, and then your school board member has to do all these others. So you're just adding more stuff to them when really it needs to stay in the school. It needs to stay with those parents, those teachers, that staff that know what's going on in that school.
And speaking back to the test order question, when I was a site-based council member at a school for 2 terms. It was considered a lower performing school, and we had 3 different principals while I was on that committee. 3. And every year we've had the same site-based council. And we improved scores every year. It wasn't just the principal. It was a strong site-based council. But a shout out to those 3 principals because they were strong leaders. We had one moved on to a different school, one was in interim, and now the current principal there. All strong leaders, we all improved, and the site-based council was the same. So site-based councils do make a difference. But a principal with strong leadership also makes a difference. If we had a lower leader and this bill was passed the way it's been written, and we had a lower performing principal, site-based council couldn't have kept that standard, and we would that school would be moving down the categories.
I have one more question for this segment, and this will wrap it up. I'm very supportive of Senate Bill 4. I think it's a good bill. And we're gonna this bill dovetails in with Senate Bill 4 a little bit because I'm going to be advocating for a ton of money to fund SB 4, and so that's going to put a lot of leadership pressure on this principal. And so, as an example, when we have a principal and they do this leadership training and they go away for a week or whatever, and then they have all this training over a 5-year period, and they come back to their school building. And they have all these great ideas and they want to implement those. What happens when the SBDMs put in place a list of rules or bureaucracies, really, that countermand that and maybe stop them in their tracks from implementing the good ideas that they've come up with to make themselves a good leader of the school that they're responsible for?
I'd love to speak to that because I actually went through the chamber program. And I was able to bring back those ideas to my council. One of the things we learned at the Institute is how to reflect on your leadership and how to involve others and how to sell your vision too. So it's councils. As a principal, you are one member of your council. And yes, you have a vision. And yes, you have these wonderful ideas. But you get empowered through that training to bring your ideas and get that buy-in. So if you know something, and to present it and to present your data that goes with it. I talked to a lot of principals and daily, they call us with questions. Most of the time I work with principals more than other members on the council. And what I hear most often is that they're trying to get their councils to see that their voice matters and they want their input. And there's not one person in a room that's smarter than the collective group. But I've not seen anything where councils put like rules in place that would keep good ideas from coming about. I just haven't seen that.
So for the record, you're supportive of the Truist Leadership Training Program.
Yes, 100%. Life changer.
Thank you.
Yes.
I agree with that 100%. That's it for this segment. Thank you all for your presentation today right now. Senator Reed, if you would come back to the table, we'll attempt to finish up here. Senator Reed, whenever you're settled, I'm going to give you like 1 minute, a quick minute just to respond, and then we'll take care of any motions we have.
Thank you, Senator West.
Hold on a second. We'll probably open it up to a couple questions for you after you've had a chance to speak.
Okay.
Proceed.
I was just going to add, there was some things, I know with the folks that just spoke, they probably didn't have access to the subs and all that, and realized that we did take out a lot of the things that they had the comments about. I believe it was part 2 that all school policies would have to be reviewed and approved by the board. That was removed from the original bill, so that's not an issue at this point. The other one was the provisions that a superintendent would have to approve all hires recommended by the principal. That also was removed. So if that was an issue, that's no longer an issue for this bill. But again, this bill is designed to, in the spirit of this bill, is to establish leadership and accountability so that the people in the district do understand who is in charge. As well as I would implore folks to run for school board. That's something that is a big issue in our state. There's members that have been on the board for 30 plus years, and their only reason for that is because no one would run against them or would want to take their spot. Because I would implore folks across the state to get involved in that realm, because that's a very undermanned, and I think there's a lot of improvement that can be done in that world. So, thanks,
Senator
sir.
Neal has a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be clear. Have we gone through some evaluative process? And when I say we, I'm talking about any entity out there, or the legislature had some committee or something to study this issue or something in some way, and we made some determinations of what's working and what's not working in a systemic and systematic way. Have we done any of that with respect to this subject matter?
Not to what you're speaking on, no, sir.
Let me, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
The reason I raise that is that we have multiple school districts across Kentucky. I get nothing back but praise for that mechanism that we created in the beginning. I don't doubt anything you're saying about you get calls, because I get calls on both sides of the issue all the time, and sometimes someone's more intentional than the other, and when I go out there and I evaluate things, I come up with a different conclusion from what people are calling me about. And I say this with all due respect to you, because you know how much I do respect you and cherish
Yes, sir.
your thinking and your input on the legislature. But I don't have any evidence, and I move around the district, I move around the state. I don't have evidence of a problem in this area. In fact, the feedback I get is strengthening what we started back in 1990. That engagement and involvement is key, and they emphasize that, and I get that from principals, and I get that from other members that function on these SBDM committees. So I'm just very hesitant. What I would ask you to consider, no matter what the outcome is here, that perhaps we evaluate the circumstances and see what works or not. Because see, we have a tendency up here, and I have to control myself sometimes of getting in the position of what I think I see, what I hear, what makes sense to me. But when you get down on the ground, that's a different ball game. That's why I go to the ground a lot, as much as I can. That's why I talk to everybody in the system. And I would encourage you to think about it. And I don't want this to be misinterpreted, because I know your intentions are good. I know we talk all the time, but I'm not sure this is the way to go about this at this time.
I've got one final question for this segment, and then we'll vote. Just one more time for clarification. Is there anything in your bill that prevents members in SBDM from being engaged and involved in their school building and being engaged and involved with their principal of the school building?
There is not, Senator West.
Thank you. We're going to act on the bill at this point. Do we have a motion on Senate Bill 152 as amended by committees, the committee sub and the committee amendment? We have a motion from Senator Williams. We have a second from Senator Tishner. Please call the roll.
Senator Carroll. Aye. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal.
I'd like to explain my no vote,
Please proceed.
and I offer that respectfully. I don't see where it advances what we're trying to do in this particular element of the educational process to change it with no fundamental research, evaluation, or indication of nothing's perfect, or indication why we should change into this arrangement. I don't think that's, as a body, I don't think that's good policy making. So I vote no.
Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my no vote.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Let me begin by saying I would disagree with the premise that this bill doesn't mute parental involvement and engagement in schools. Again, being a lawyer, all you gotta do is look at the language. And the current law says that school councils have the ability to set school-based policy. This bill, if changed, would say that principals establish school-based policy. Current law says that school councils can establish committees and set forth the policies governing those committees. If this bill were to become law, that power would rest solely in the principal. Current policy says that site-based decision-making councils have the ability to expend funds given to that school within certain parameters. If this bill were to become law, that responsibility would go solely to the principals. And so, reading the language, this bill clearly mutes the role of parents in the schools. Okay. Now, as I've said, and I've seen this from personal experience, there's no substitute for parental engagement and involvement in their children's lives, particularly in the school system and education that education that parent's child gets in the school system. Okay. So, for the reasons I articulated that I see in this bill, and my experience, being a PTSA president and engaging parents in schools and seeing what that has done in terms of changing the entire nature and resources in the school, I would implore all parents to oppose this bill, get involved in their schools, and encourage this body, and if it goes to the House, that body as well, to vote no on this bill. For all those reasons, Mr. Chair, I am going to vote no on Senate Bill 152.
Senator Tishner.
Explain my vote, please.
Please proceed.
I'm going to vote aye, and there's some reasons I'm going to vote aye. This bill in no way prohibits parent involvement. I think in a lot of ways it removes the ability for a school board or a principal to point their fingers back at a bad decision, and therefore there's no accountability. Just as you mentioned, this really is a bill about accountability to those who should hold the decision-making in power. I've seen in my own district school board meetings where the school board raises their hands and says, we can't do anything about it. It's a site-based decision. And I think that gives the people a little bit of a disadvantage to be able to hold their elected officials accountable. So I think that's important. I think it's important that this bill continues to allow the committees and that process to exist within an advisory council. And I have witnessed in my district as well, parents who are on committees to choose curriculum have an incredible influence on what curriculum is chosen for their schools. That doesn't get taken away in this bill at all. I think this can, well, I'll say I tried to file a bill to fix some of the election issues within the SBDM, and every district is different. When I filed that bill, it was a very tedious bill to try and look at addressing some of the issues within the election process. A lot of my colleagues said, just get rid of the councils. Like, that's really what the problem is. But what I was trying to get at was the politicizing of these elections and what was happening so that the school could have a certain amount of control. And so the elections were a little tainted. So I think this is going to pull some of that stuff away. It's going to put the authority at the principal. It's going to put the authority at the superintendent and the board. And I think that's a really important place for that authority to rest. Thank you for working on this.
Senator Williams.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my
Please
aye
proceed.
vote. I vote aye, and I think from testimony we had today, it was interesting with the council president talked about 3 principles that they had trust with, and that they were good principles and they were good leaders. And it seems to me that the real formula for success is trust between the council and the leaders. And irregardless of who's got the ultimate authority, the council or the leader, it's the trust that matters. And if there's not trust, it's not going to succeed, I believe. And I think there's no greater example. I want to read one section here of the bill on page 5. It says, after receiving notification of funds available from the school, the local board, the council, this is the way it reads currently, the council shall determine within the parameters of available funds the number of persons to be employed in each job classification at the school. The council may make personnel decisions on vacancies, but shall not have the authority to recommend transfers or dismissals. If I'm looking at that and trying to figure out who's actually in control, if there is a problem, where the problem is, and if there's no trust, it's not going to work. And I believe that the way we've changed it, it said they shall recommend to the principal, and they shall advise the principal. They make recommendations, they do the advisions, and when you have a good leader and there is trust, he's going to listen to that council. So I vote aye because I think this will facilitate more clarity and greater trust between the leadership, the principal, and the site-based councils. So I vote aye.
Senator Wilson. Aye. Senator Wise. Chair West.
Aye. Senate Bill 152 passes with a vote of 10 ayes and 2 nays. Don't, gentlemen, if you, ladies and gentlemen, if you wouldn't leave yet, we have to act on a motion real quick. Sorry. Shall be reported with the expression of the opinion that the same should pass with committee and sub attached thereto. We got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. We have to roll the committee amendment into the sub. Is there a motion to roll the committee amendment into the committee sub? We have a motion from Senator Williams. We have a second from Senator Carroll. Is that right? Okay, sorry. This is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Committee amendment is rolled into committee sub. Thank you.